Welcome back to another episode of the Mulligans and Milkshakes podcast presented by Crimson Crossover Podcast Network. I'm your host, Christian Sykes. Unfortunately, Matthew Travis has had some plane troubles, so he's not able to join us this week. But rest assured, we do have his fantasy picks in for the week. And then I'm also joined by Charles Branch. Charles, how are you doing today?
I'm doing pretty well after last week. So
Yeah,
good week for Alabama golf. It was a good week for Alabama sports in general, I think, but obviously from the golf side, which I know we'll talk about a little bit, milkshakes all around for sure.
well, and you have to think the milkshakes are for clearly Davis Riley winning his first individual PGA championship. But you know, outside of that, there was a lot more to celebrate. Frankie Capon finishes in second on the Corn Ferry after he loses in a playoff. He actually birdied the playoff hole, but the guy that he was going against, was it Harry Higgs, I think. He eagled the playoff hole. So you can't really be upset when, you birdie a playoff hole and you lose. Like it's
Right.
like you can't really do much. On top of that, Thomas Ponder wins a qualifier to get into I think it's like the North American swing of the PGA Tours. Um, I guess tour. I know
Yeah.
that's redundant, but um, he's into that now. And then obviously Cannon finishes 18th in the PGA Tour U, to also get into the PGA Tour Americas tour, at least for this summer. I think his card's probably good for a year.
Mhm.
So a lot of golf going around, a lot of success for the Alabama, golf community, coming up at least professionally with Cannon, Thomas, and then Frankie, and then obviously Davis, and then not to mention Robbie Shelton, friend of the program, finishes top 10 in the same tournament that Davis Riley wins. And we were kind of talking about that before the podcast, where they got that catapults him. Where did he jump into the SEC, apologies, the tour rankings as far as the FedEx Cup's concerned?
Yeah, so Robbie started the week at 150th and he's moved up to 126th in the FedEx Cup rankings. And maybe, but before we leave the FedEx Cup rankings, just to talk about Davis and his jump with the win, he was 149th, so one spot in front of Robbie. Robbie finishes tied for seventh. Davis wins, and I believe he's all the way up at 55th or 58th right now. So you get a win on tour, and it propels you to have a good chance to get into the tour championship playoff at the end of the year. But it was a big jump for Robbie on what I hope he will view as a successful weekend. I know the Sunday was a little bit difficult for him, and talk about that a little bit more in a little bit. But all three guys had great moments. Obviously, Davis the most of all of them, but a really good weekend for Alabama golf. And I think the reason why we wanted to start a podcast like this. There are a lot of knowledgeable, Alabama golf fans out there, and they know that it's more than just Justin Thomas. But on a Memorial Day weekend, you may more casual, just Alabama fans in general, maybe didn't know that Davis Riley played at Alabama. And then you also got guys like Robbie Shelton and Lee Hodges and what Frankie did and some of those other things. So glad those guys are helping us out in a sense of just trying to profile Alabama golf with their success on the course.
Yeah, and it's interesting with Davis. So I was in Georgia at my aunt and uncle's lake house. And um for those of you who are listening and don't know kind of my background, I was born and I was born in Hattiesburg, Mississippi, and lived in Mississippi for 9 years. um Davis Riley's from Hattiesburg, Mississippi, and my aunt and uncle, like a lot of my family's from Hattiesburg, and so my aunt's parents came down and they live in Hattiesburg currently. And I was telling them, I was like, you guys know that a guy from Hattiesburg's leading this tournament, and they know Davis's grandparents. So like it's just so cool to like have a guy that's kind of representing where I'm from, and that like my family knows like his family to win a tournament, and that I always have a liking towards Davis because of that. Just well, on top of him being from Alabama, but just because he's kind of from my hometown, and um, he's kind of representing the area. So super thrilled for him
And
as well.
not just winning a golf tournament, but winning it pretty comfortably, being paired with world number one Scotty Scheffler on a Sunday. Now he obviously went into the Sunday with a 5-stroke lead and had built a pretty good lead based off his play. I felt like the back nine on Friday and the front nine on Saturday, he really went to work and really started to stretch out that lead for him, where he was 13 under going into Sunday, and Scotty was about 8 under. But I think a lot of just golf viewers definitely went into Sunday thinking Scotty Scheffler can make a run and put some pressure on Davis. I mean, Scotty had started the tournament 2 over, and then here we are Sunday, and he's second place in the final pairing again. But Davis, held his wits about him, was basically played even par throughout the day, which, we were kind of joking about it in our group chat, but how this tournament played more difficult than what the PGA Championship played the week before. But I hope for Davis, one, to put a successful week together has got to give you a lot of confidence. But you went toe to toe with world number one on that last day, and you held your wits about you, and maybe in a sense let him kind of make some mistakes, because nobody ever really challenged Davis at all on Sunday. It was a good walk, not spoiled for him basically on 18 holes. So super happy for him. While this is his second PGA Tour victory, this one's definitely different than winning the Zurich. It being an individual event and not a team event, I've got to believe this one means a little bit more to him. And now with what's going on in the PGA Tour with signature events and now being a part of those going forward with this win, and next year when the PGA kicks off in Hawaii like they do, he's going to be in that Champions tournament. So just a great springboard for him, for a guy who had kind of struggled, I think, early in the year, just wasn't putting the results together that he wanted, and maybe that we would have thought he could have, especially with the year that he had last year. But he's really started to turn it on, and getting a nice week off with withdrawing from the Canadian, which I think is very understandable, and gearing up to hopefully finish strong on the back half here of the PGA Tour this year.
Yeah, and we were again talking about it before the podcast. He still has to qualify, go through qualifiers for the US Open. So I think Lee does as well, Lee Hodges. Nick doesn't have to because and I was talking to John Graham again of Alabama Pro Updates just about, qualifications and things like that. Nick doesn't have to qualify, because he's still the US Amateur. And so he gets to play because of that. But like Davis still has to qualify. So I think he's going to be qualifying in Canada on June 3rd. No, June 3rd, maybe June 6th. One of those.
June 3rd. Yeah, June 3rd would be the Monday. So
yeah.
Yeah.
So, and then obviously Lee, I think, still has to qualify, but I kind of expected him to take off the RBC just because generally when you win, like you're probably not in the same type of mental mindset. You're probably arriving at the course a couple of days, like a day or two later than what you normally would. And you're trying to like get your ducks in a row, because now like his schedule changes completely from what he originally did. He's in the rest of the signature events for the rest of the year. So the remaining 2, I think, that are left. And he's not in the majors as of now. I think he has to get top 70 in the world golf ranking to be able to qualify for that. And I think you said he was what, 74th, 78th?
And Lee is 72nd. So both those guys have a little bit of work to do to get in those, but definitely attainable with how both of them are playing right now, especially Lee with how he came back basically this weekend he was right on the cut line, and then goes out and finishes 3 under for the tournament with the top 12 finish, coming off of what he did at the PGA Championship. He seems to be in a really good form right now.
Yeah. Um, and then Nick, who's also outside of the top 70, I think he's 74th, which he's actually getting credit for his win on the world golf rankings, which he's not in the FedEx Cup, which is something to note. That he has quite a bit of work to do as far as getting into the Tour Championship this year. Maybe another win, or definitely another win would do him wonders as far as getting in. But that remains to be seen. But overall, just a great weekend of golf for Alabama. It's a great representation of what like we said, the university kind of puts out. They like people don't realize that Alabama churns out professional golfers at a very high rate, and it just like you just don't hear about it on the PGA Tour because they don't talk about college golf that much when they're on the tours. So um again, just really happy for Lee and Robbie and Davis. Just three fantastic weekends for those guys.
Yeah, I thought for Robbie it was definitely an exceptional weekend because it was very close to almost being an all Alabama pairing for that final grouping in the Charles Schwab, almost very similar to Nick and Justin teaming up together in the American Express earlier this year. But when Robbie talked to us, a few weeks ago, he was talking about how he played pretty well Thursday, Friday, and then would just have one round on the weekend that kind of maybe cost him just some position or a chance to win, or obviously some FedEx points and some money. He started Saturday and he had a bogey, but rebounded, finished strong, and again finished eight. He was 8 under, so basically he was tied with Scotty Scheffler heading into the final round. And then he starts the final round, starts with a birdie, but then has a triple bogey. And I was really concerned for him of just, or the wheels going to kind of fall off as you get through the rest of the 12, 13. It didn't get any worse from there. He had a few birdies, he had a few bogeys, but all in all, he gets a top 10 finish. He finishes tied for 7th. I think that was huge that he was able to stay in the top 10, get to that 126 in the FedEx Cup points, obviously improve his world golf ranking as well. And again, when we talk about just momentum and trying to continue the form that you have, Robbie had played pretty well out in Myrtle Beach too, where he finished, I think, tied for 26. So he got a tied for 26, a tied for 7th. He's now headed to the Canadian Open, and hopefully he can put it together another good week and continue to build on those points and keep going up the FedEx Cup rankings. I don't know if there's enough time to make up enough points. Obviously, if you win a tournament like Davis did, that completely changes the story. But I don't want to speak on behalf of Robbie, but I think for him, he just wants to continue to find consistency and make more cuts and continue to battle for top 15s, top 20s, and top 5s going forward.
Well, and if he can qualify for the US Open like that and make the cut, like those for like FedEx Cup points and things like that, that like the making the majors do a lot. And then for the other events, like the Myrtle Beach was during the Wells Fargo, for the non-signature events, if you can perform well in those, you're not getting the signature events FedEx Cup points, but you're still getting some against what I would consider, a lesser field, because the top, 70 golfers or whatever in the world, or maybe not in the world, but the top 70 golfers in the FedEx Cup are playing in the signature events. So for Robbie, just playing and just like you said, getting more points, getting top 10 finishes. I don't know exactly what his PGA Tour card looks like, as far as like exemptions and things like that. I think with Davis now, he's got a 3-year exemption on tour. He already had one because of the Zurich Classic, but now he's got a 3-year exemption, and I think 3 years signature events as well. Um, and is automatically in the Masters, right? Like he
Yeah.
gets to play at Augusta for the first time. He'll be in Charlotte next year for the PGA. Like just getting one win does wonders for your, you know, kind of career. It's kind of what that thin line that we've kind of been talking about on in golf, where one missed putt can prevent you from ever, you know, getting up to maybe not the Scotty Scheffler type of level, but like Max Homa, right? Like Max Homa was grinding on the Corn Ferry Tour and gets a break, and now look at him. Like he's one of the best golfers in the world, and that's kind of the line or margin that you have in professional golf is just it's like one missed putt and you're stuck in a rut on the Corn Ferry Tour, or
Yep.
you hit the putt and now you're a top 15 golfer in the world just because that's how things break for you.
Yeah.
So, um, outside of Alabama golf, I did want to mention this news. I think it was Saturday morning or Saturday afternoon. Um, Came out that former Wake Forest golfer, Wake Forest, I think what was the other school? SMU, maybe not SMU. Anyway, former Wake, I would just say former Wake Forest golfer, Grayson Murray passed away. Um, and we found out later on Sunday, it kind of was assumed a little bit that it ended up being cause of death was suicide. And you know, for people that listen to this, my DMs are always open. I think Charles' DMs are always open. Matthew's DMs are always open. The pages DMs are like anytime you need to talk to someone or you're struggling with stuff mentally, you got stuff going on, or you feel like there's not someone to talk to. You can always come reach out to me or reach out to one of us, and I'm more than happy, or we're more than happy to sit down and talk to you. You know, Suicide and depression is a real thing. Um, you know, I probably know more than most. For again, those of you who don't know, my dad, you know, committed suicide when I was 9 years old. So, it's something that hits close to home to me. Um, and it's something that is very real. And a lot of the times, the people that do this or do that is they feel lost. They don't, they have a lot of struggles. I know Grayson struggled with alcoholism and depression and anxiety and things like that. So um thoughts and prayers to his family, to his friends, to the golf world. A lot of very nice things and very well spoken things were said during you know the hours and the days following the event. Um, but I just want to say that like we do this for fun, and the platform that we build has allowed us to share our thoughts and share you know things with people, but it's not exclusive. So like we're here for you guys. And if you ever just need to talk to someone about anything, just hit me up, hit us up. And I don't ever want anyone to feel like they're excluded from anything, or they're alone, or they can't feel like they can express anything that they've got going on. So you know that's it. I know that's a somber thing, but
Well,
I think it's important.
I'd echo your sentiments that Twitter, whatever it is, if anybody's out there that's struggling, our direct messages, our DMs are open. Whether you want to DM, our Mulligan and Milkshake Twitter handle, our Instagram, us personally, the group of friends that I have from college, when the news came out that it was suicide, the immediate response from everybody was, "Hey, if you're ever struggling with anything, I want you to know, that I'm here to talk." And that was from several guys that were saying that or reiterating that I'm always here to talk. it's not something that's really talked enough a lot about from guys, I think. It's probably starting to get talked about a little bit more, that we're starting to shed some of these barriers, that, it's okay for us to struggle. And it's okay to share those struggles with people. It's also, you don't necessarily have to share your struggles, but just find that community of people to talk to. I mean, I think about Christian, you and I, 2.5 years ago, we didn't know each other at all. We got connected because you were hosting Twitter Spaces, and I was frustrated that Alabama just lost to Missouri, and Juwan Gary was tweeting about NIL deals 12 hours before the game. And here we are, 2.5 years later, doing podcasts about Alabama golf and Alabama basketball. And same thing for Matthew. I didn't know Matthew until 2, 3 months ago when we started talking about doing this as well. So, those are great stories how we've got connected just through passions that we've had. But I would say too, especially for our basketball community through spaces and stuff like that, people have shared, just what the community has meant to them when they go through struggles, that they know like they can always come and just talk ball. So again, if you're just looking for a group, a community, we're here to talk. There's as we know, there's millions of Alabama fans out there, whether they're real alumni or people that just love the program and love what it stands for, and love the coaches and players that have come from it. It's a way that all of us can kind of bond. But we want to be here from everybody, because we don't, like you said, these are things that we don't want to see happen. We don't want to talk about. But when it does happen, it forces us in a good way to reiterate that we are here and we want to be open, and we want people to know that wherever you're struggling, there's nothing that you're struggling with that, me now at 35, I probably haven't, already heard about somebody struggling with it at some point within their life as well. So, our, like Christian said, our DMs are always open for anybody that wants to talk.
Yeah, and even if it's just you needed someone to talk to about, oh, my golf game's crappy, right? Like, brother or sister, sorry, don't want me to stereotype anyone. When I tell you my golf game is crappy, my golf game is probably worse than most people's. So, like, I know jokes and stuff, but like, seriously, like, just don't. There are times when things are dark, and there are times when things are bad, but there are people that are there for you. People love you. People care about you. And if you don't feel that way, then you know, please reach out to me, because I'll love you. I'll talk to you. I'll do whatever you need to. Big thing for me is inclusivity and bringing everyone together. Regardless, if you're an alumni, great. If you're not an alumni, great. If you only like that football, great. Like, it's all the same thing. We're all supporting and cheering for the same thing, same athletic program, regardless of what you prefer. So just reach out. That's it. That's all I gotta say. But talking about golf games, getting back on track. uh you played the USGA qualifier course. How'd that go?
The USGA junior qualifier, and I should have looked up what the final. I don't know if the final scores were actually posted today. I want to throw out there that I played the last two holes in the dark, so there was a lot of rushing and there was a lot of not even seeing where the ball was going, just kind of hoping that this is where it was. Um, but I shot 100, and these kids probably, so that was 29 over. And there was probably a kid that went out there today and shot 4 under. So a lot of work still left to do. But one of the things that I did take as far as encouraging from that is it was the farthest I've ever played back in the tees. And probably halfway through, I actually kind of figured something out with my putting, or at least I was holding the putter too close to the body, and kind of when I extended my hands a little bit more, I was making better contact. I was getting more of a straighter roll on the ball than maybe pulling it or pushing it. And if I had done that from the start of the round, I can think of, two or three holes where it was a 3-footer or a 5-footer that I, burned the edge that would have just lined up and hit right down the middle and not worried about a push or a pull. It was something that as I got out there, I really contemplated as far as what I've been doing of playing up and just working on, drivers, wedge, and putting, that's what I should stick to. But I just talked myself into there's only so many times in life where you can tee off from the USGA tees, no matter what tournament it is. So I tested myself. I did not at all pass the test, but it was a good, fun day yesterday. I got to play with Wayne Ingram, who is the son of Cecil Ingram, who Doug Bell talked about when we had him on. Cecil played golf at the University of Alabama. Cecil's dad and Wayne's grandfather was Hootie Ingram. We're hoping to have Cecil on our podcast at some point. But it was a good round with him of just going out there and having fun and seeing how I stack up against people 20 years younger than me.
Why does that name Wayne Ingram sound familiar?
Wayne was at Alabama. He went to Alabama. And Wayne, you probably know Wayne from William Galloway, because they're around if they're not the same age, they're around the same age. But also Britton Johnson too. But Wayne's from Mountain Brook and has been involved as far as Alabama athletics. And he also gave the Mulligan and Milkshake podcast a follow today on Twitter. So that may be
That's why. Yeah. Yeah.
why
That's
the
it.
why
Yeah.
the name
I was
is
like, that sounds really familiar.
yeah. Yeah. So Wayne, we appreciate the follow.
Um,
But you also got to get on the course on Sunday, and not only did you get on the course, but the Linger Longer tournament that Alabama played in Greensboro, Georgia, earlier this year. That's the course that you were playing over the weekend.
I've played that course. So we
Yeah,
didn't, so my uncle's community where I was staying, we didn't play the Linger Longer one, the Linger Longer course, but we played apparently the more difficult course, called I think it was like National. Um, and so I played on Sunday and I might have shot like a 60, 70 on the front nine. I'm not joking when I say that like, that was the worst round of golf, worst front nine of golf I've ever played. Truly was atrocious. Like I on the first 3 holes lost 6 balls. It was that bad.
yeah,
And um then on the back nine, I was with my uncle and you know, I have a tendency to kind of slouch over because I've always felt like when I swing that I'm gonna top the ball because I'm so tall that I really need to get down on the ball to make sure I'm hitting the ball. And so I tend to have slouch a little bit sometimes. My uncle says I look like an old man trying to golf. And so he's like, just stand up. He's like, it's not supposed to be comfortable. You're not supposed to be like feel good when you swing. Like it's supposed to be a little uncomfortable. And so, I stood up and kind of straightened up a little bit. And I don't know what it was about that, but I just started piping my drive. I mean, I'm talking about like I was hitting my driver probably 280, 290 on average on the back nine, just because I was, standing up. I wasn't, you know, it, it, it was wild. I was telling you this before the round, or before the podcast started that, there was a hole that was, a draw for me, a draw left. It wasn't necessarily a dog leg left. It was just there's trees that were preventing you from going straight at the green. Um, and I get up, I hit my driver, it curves perfectly around the trees. I have 110 in left on a par four, and my uncle bets me that he can get it closer than me, and I put it within 15, 20 feet of the hole. Um, and my at one point I did the math. I had 6 straight birdie putts, which I never have birdie putts ever. I didn't make a single one. I 3-putted sometimes, ended up getting bogeys while I was on the green, but the fact that I, put myself in position to get birdie putts was just crazy. I almost got it on the green on a par five again on the second shot. I was greenside. Like it's just, so I felt good, coming out of that until we got to 18 where I got tired and I hit a bad, a bad shot. And my uncle goes, "Oh, I'm going to line you up using my driver." And so he lines me up because he's like, "Oh, I'm going to teach you this." And I go and he's like, "Swing." And I said, "Are you sure?" And he's like, "Yeah, go ahead and swing." Well, the driver's still on the ground. I swing the club and I break his driver because I went so far inside on my swing that snapped the driver shaft. And he's like, "Oh, no big deal. $350. That's no big deal." I was like, I wish I had that type of money
Yeah.
to where
I wonder with you standing up more, because if I remember correctly, when we got started, you talked about one of the challenges you have in your golf swing is you don't get a whole lot of hip rotation or you forget. So standing up more allowed you to get some more hip rotation that allowed you to get some ball speed and make some good contact to pipe it down there like you wanted to.
that. And I also have a tendency to not finish my swing. So when I swing through, I'll kind of like stop here
Yeah.
because like it feels for me, like it feels, oh, I finished my swing. But my uncle's like, "You're not finishing your swing. You're just stopping right here, leaving the club face open, causing you to, you know." And so
Yeah.
he's like, "You just need to hit your butt every single time you swing the club." And so, me standing up and then me just like hitting my butt, I think really allowed for more club head speed. Um, so
Uh, that having the back nine where you got 6 attempts in a row of a birdie putt. Last week, when I was out and playing, I hit 10 greens in regulation, and played pretty well. And again, so I only made one birdie putt, but that's the type of stuff like that just keeps getting you to come back because you see that you have the ability to do it. And that's what going back to when we had Cannon, that's when golf is fun. And it doesn't necessarily have to be that you have to hit it from so far back. It's about being out there and having fun. And people want to have the opportunity to make birdie putts or to have closer shots in it. They don't want to have 180 to 200 yards on their second shot on a par four, which is what I was having to deal with a lot yesterday playing from the back tees. So all that to say, I'm glad you got that experience. One, that you played well and got that experience. And that's what I've really enjoyed over the past couple of weeks is just having better opportunities to score well and make some of those scores that these professionals are making, even if it's from a shorter distance.
look, and you think about like other sports, right? Like basketball, right? You're not going to put a high schooler at an NBA 3-point line to shoot. You're just not going to. You're not going to put a college student at an NBA 3-point line to shoot. Like it's just not going to happen. Like this whole, oh, I need to be able to hit the ball 300 yards, 310 yards, 320 yards, and then be able to hit my 5-iron, like 230, 240 yards, because that's what the pros do. That's just not feasible. And it's okay that if you're on the gold tees or if you're on the white tees or, maybe even like I told Sam, I said the next time that we go golf together, like I'm going to play from the reds with her. And like, so that one, we can play together.
Yeah.
Right. This one, my uncle told me to do this. He's like, "Well, if you're playing with Sam, why not just play from the same tees?" And he's like, "Who cares if someone looks at you funny because you're playing from the red tees? Like, go work on your iron game, go work on your 3 woods, go, get your short shots, work on your, closer shots instead of sitting there and feeling like you have to be a man and play from the blues or the tips or, whatever you're playing from." So, I think we're going to go play this weekend and I'll probably end up doing that. Just to, have a little fun.
Yep.
I always tell Sam because she's a lot like me. I get hard on myself when I play, and so does she. And I always have to remind her, and I always try to remind myself that I'm not good at golf. Why am I upset? Like, it's not like I'm a, 5 handicap, right?
Yeah.
Like, I'm terrible at golf. Why get upset if you play poorly? Like, it loses the fun.
Yeah. Like I want to play well, but my biggest benefit is going out there for 3 hours and I'm walking 18 holes and I'm kind of just clearing my head from the day or just getting ready for the weekend. And I've talked now with Harvey and Wilson, they went out and played 9 holes with me on Sunday. They don't care if I score well. They don't care if they score well. They just want to hit the ball and get it in the hole eventually. So just being out there to have fun, and the same with you and Sam, that's an activity that y'all do together that, making moments from and just having fun and enjoying the game. You don't have to be, while we would all probably like to be a professional, it's just, I think Kenan said the average golfer, scores 100. So, that's for guys like us, that's we're better than the average golfers right now. So
Yeah. Um, well, let's move on to this week and the PGA Tour this week. We're playing in Canada.
mhm.
Um, a, a, a course that Rory McIlroy has a really good, does really well there. Um, Nick Taylor won last year. I found out today he's Canadian. Did not know that. Um, and the field isn't necessarily great, um, but a lot of interesting storylines. And I do like these events because, like you said previously, you get to see guys that you're not seeing Scotty Scheffler
Mhm.
24/7. I got kind of upset last weekend when Davis Riley is winning by 4 strokes on Friday and you're not seeing any shots, but you're seeing Scotty Scheffler, you're seeing every single shot. And I'm like, dude, just show me the leader. Like, I want to see the leader. I don't want to see the leader just on the green making a putt. Like, I want to see his shots. Why are we waiting until, you know, Sunday to see what he's doing? Because Scotty, and I get it, TV's ratings, I get all of that, but it's just quite frustrating when, especially when when I pick first and second place correctly in our fantasy tournament, um, that I don't get to see my guy that's leading the way throughout the weekend. So um, I'm assuming we're going to see all of Rory's shots, but being able to see some of the other guys in the field. So, what are your thoughts on the tournament?
Yeah, I remember when Nick Taylor won last year, and I think it was Hadwin, fellow Canadian, when Nick makes that 72-foot putt to win in the playoff, and Adam comes running from the green off the green to I don't know if it was champagne. I can't remember what the beverage was that he was pouring on him. Well, then he gets tackled by the security guard. And all I can think of now is just, security guards and police officers. Maybe we need some different people to be around the golf courses because they seem to not be able to identify the golfers correctly, whether it's Adam Hadwin, for Canadian as well, or Scotty Scheffler just trying to go play a round of golf. But I know this is a big, big tournament, obviously, for all the Canadian born guys. I think Nick Taylor was the first Canadian to actually win it last year. And that's why there was so much excitement around him. And, guys are just continuing to try to get into form as you get ready for the US Open. Guys are trying, this is, not being a signature event. This is guys like a Davis Riley that are trying to get a win and get into those signature events and fight their way into the FedEx Cup ranking. So I agree with you. It's one where guys like Rory and Sahith and Tommy Fleetwood and Adam Scott may get a lot of the coverage, but the hope is that you're going to get to see a lot of other golfers and become familiar with their games, because it just brings more people to the game as well when you're not just looking at 5 or 6 guys every week.
Yeah, absolutely. And on top of that, you get to see storylines like Akshay winning, to get into I think the Masters. You get to see storylines like Davis Riley winning to get into the rest of the signature events. These storylines mean something, and they're a big deal for these guys that, again, like I said, it's a very thin line for success on the PGA Tour, probably
Yeah.
thinner than any other professional sport as far as the risk reward for it. Like if you have one bad year and you don't win, guess what? You're not on the PGA Tour anymore. Like that's just how it is. Um, or you have one really good year and now you're set for the next 10 years. Like you don't have to worry about, grinding for 27 events every single year. So um really excited about that. I think you have the fantasy picks this week
Yeah,
for
I've got the fantasy picks. Like we said, we did this offline with Matthew not being us. But before we get into that, we'll just recap real quick how things shook out last week. Because not only was it a banner week for Alabama golf, but all of us, and of course, when Alabama golfers are going to do well, we're all probably going to do well too. I really thought I was going to be positioned well because I had all six golfers make the cut, and I know I'm only taking five scores, but really thought that I was going to find myself in a good position and maybe closing the gap. The gap actually widened for me because you jumped Matthew with Davis's win, so you got double the points, 50 there, and then you also got points from Scotty, of course. You had 1 and 2 with that, and then you also had points from Tom Hoagie to give you 70 points and put you in the lead at 265. Matthew is nipping at your heels with 260 points. He got 25 points on the week. Colin Morikawa and Lee Hodges, doubling the points for Lee with the top 12 finish, of course, got him 25. And like I said, my worst golfer was Jordan Spieth that won over, tied for 37th. I got, double points with Robbie Shelton having a top 10 finish. Tony Finau was a top 20 finish. Sepp Straka was top 5. Lucas Glover was a top 15 finish. And Christian Bezadenhout was a top 20 finish as well. So I'm sitting here like I'm going to have a great week. I'm going to close the gap, and the gap is actually widened where you were, I think, 35 points ahead of me between second and third. I continue to be in third place, but now I got 50 points between me and Matthew. So I feel like I've had 2 good weeks back to back, even though nothing's, we all tied 2 weeks ago at Valhalla for the PGA. This week I come in second with you getting Davis and Scotty, and I keep falling backwards, but hopefully I'm finding some consistency and a rhythm to fight my way out of the pimento cheese range right now. So
and look, if you think about it, if Matthew would have taken Davis, imagine his lead.
oh yeah, we'd be done. We'd be
Ima-
we'd be cooked, as the kids say.
or if you would have taken Davis.
Yeah. Look, I'm not disappointed with my pick, obviously, of Robbie
No,
Shelton.
Robbie was a great pick.
Robbie was great. And, I did have some inside information from Kelsey's Instagram account that I saw that they were there, and Riggs was there too. I don't know if Riggs got through customs to go up to Canada or not. I don't have that inside information this week. But I do not have the first pick this week. That is Matthew. So he will have the one to make that selection. But before we start getting into the selections, wanted to make sure there was anything we hadn't touched, or if we're just ready to get into it.
Oh yeah, I think we're good. I think we're
All
good.
right. So Matthew had the first pick, Christian second, I'm third. Matthew did go with friend of the program, Robbie Shelton, to kick off his team this week.
Yeah, and then who did I would just read off
So yeah, I'll just read off Robbie's team. So he's got Robbie Shelton, he's got Tommy Fleetwood, Sahith Theegala, Alex Noren, Sam Burns, and Keith Mitchell rounds out his 6 golfers that he's rolling with this week.
And then I went a little crazy. Hold on. Let me find
Yeah,
it.
I did not write yours down. I thought you could speak for yourself.
Yeah, I don't but here's the issue is I don't remember who I picked. I have Bud Colley. I think it's the first time I picked him all season. Shane Lowry, Carson Young, or not Carson Young, Cam Young. I almost picked the wrong one.
We had some discrepancy that we had to figure out halfway through.
Yeah, I meant Cam Young, but every single time I see it on the leaderboard, I just see CA Young. So Nick Taylor, who won last year, Luke List, and then you stole Tom Kim from me. And then I thought I was only picking I thought I was picking this pick because I thought I had to pick Canadian. Found out Nick Taylor was Canadian, but Mackenzie Hughes was another name that I picked.
Yeah, so you're doubled up on the Canadians. I so that left me Wilson Furr for my Alabama golfer. I'm excited to have Wilson back on the team. And then I had to go with Rory McIlroy, which I don't know if Matthew was going to curse me or not with Rory being his favorite golfer and knowing there was no chance he was going to fall to him. But I've got Wilson Furr, Rory McIlroy, Adam Scott. I also wanted a Canadian on my team and went with Corey Connors, Tom Kim. As you said, you were hoping Tom was going to fall with you. I did get a curse word from Matthew when I picked Tom Kim with that one. And then I finished with Eric Van Ruin to finish out my group of six. So I think it's pretty, I'll do the Matthew, Travis breakdown real quick. I think it's pretty, three pretty even teams. If I had to go with the best team, it's obviously Charles's team this week because Matthew's not here to tout his own team. So we're going to say my team is the best position. But for any of those that are listening and want to give their opinions of our team, we'll have a poll up again as well for you to go vote on our Twitter account. But we'll see if we can put together another high point week like we did last week. That may be that was 145. No, the PGA Tour with each of us getting 65 was still the highest week. But as far as a tournament that, yeah, we got bonus points from the Alabama golfers or got to double those points, but no no cuts. Nobody got deducted 5 points. Everybody had at least 5 golfers that made the cut. And no bonus points for a signature or a major or anything like that, and for us to all score pretty well. We were on our game last week, which was, I think, pretty impressive coming off the Byron Nelson, where, of course, I got negative points, and we did not pick. That's the only week we've not picked the winner, and nobody really ran away with it. You may have won that with just like 15 points total. So
I did,
pretty,
yeah.
yeah. So pretty good job from all of us last week, if I do say so myself.
Look, and I've said this, and I'll continue to say this. For people that like betting, listening to the podcast, 7 of the last 8 winners we've picked. I know that the pool is 18 golfers. I mean, okay, I would say the pool is technically it is 18 because Davis did win, but the likelihood of the Alabama golfers winning just solely based off of like competition, like you're not going to pick. While I love Bud Colley and I'm really happy he's an Alabama, golfer, if Bud Colley or Rory McIlroy, like it, that's what I'm trying to say is like, I know where the pool is 18 golfers that we're picking from, but I don't know what the odds are for someone to pick 7 of the last 8 winners on the PGA Tour. That's a Nelly Corda type of a run right there.
Yeah, I think if you really kind of break it down even further, we've picked 18 golfers now for 3 weeks, so we didn't start off doing that. And when you think of, we're all picking an Alabama golfer, and while we want them all to win every week, it's probably unrealistic. So we're really picking 12 winners between the 3 of us. So pretty good success rate of finding a winner and finding some other good finishers throughout the week too.
Yeah. As Matthew would say, we know ball.
We know ball.
But Charles, do you have anything else? Did I miss anything?
No, I think we hit everything. Again, we wishing our guys, Robbie, Wilson, Bud, a good week this week. Congratulations to Ken and Thomas for continuing their golf careers. We expected that, but now that's official. Excited to watch their growth as they move up the ranks and get to the Corn Ferry, and one of these days, hopefully on the PGA Tour as well. And there's a lot of good thing. While the season didn't end the way we wanted to for Alabama golf, as we talked about, you don't expect one of your players to go win a PGA event and then turn pro. And then looking back at the regional that we were in, of the 5 teams advanced, 4 of them made the top 15. 2 of them made the top 8 in North Carolina and Georgia Tech. The team that won the regional, Clemson, did not make the top 15. So it's just one of those weeks for us. Again, we came up 1 stroke short. You can go back and look probably at a lot of those holes for all 5, 6 ago as the guys that played. But you were playing really, really good competition. It was a very, very tough regional, but a lot of good things ahead for the Alabama golf program. Obviously, the new facility that's well underway right now. I know they're excited to get that open in the fall, and we're just excited to continue to cheer these guys on. And now that we have this platform, I'm looking forward to the SEC match play in the fall, and hopefully to be out there and see if we can showcase some of our guys through our platform too. I believe it's going to be at Shoal Creek this year, so hopefully be out there and be able to cheer them on this year too.
Absolutely. And I'll talk to I think Aaron Jordan does that, so I'll talk to him about what we need to do. But with that, again, apologies for the late podcast again. I think we kind of knew that these last 2 weeks were going to be a little bit more difficult as far as scheduling is concerned. So next week, I think we're going to have Matthew back and have a full I guess we'll be able to do it on Monday or Tuesday. So, as far as other things, be sure to check out the Weekly Joe podcast. It's our Alabama baseball podcast. They just actually interviewed Jeffrey Bramblett, who's the pitching coach for Birmingham Southern, who's the talk of NCAA baseball right now as far as everything that they've got going on. So check that out. We just started a podcast with our Tide Hoops history account with Michael Southern and Ben Foster. I think they interviewed Wimp Sanderson today. I think next week they have Richard Hendricks coming on, and then they actually Michael just texted me a little bit ago. They have Mark Gottfried coming on as well, coming up. So some definitely interesting cast of characters, different guests and things like that. So be sure to check that out. And other than that, I think we're good to sign off, and we'll talk again next week. Roll Tide.
Roll Tide.